Hey up, this is Mick from Mick's Miniatures. Somebody said they like me Stoke-on-Trent accent, so I may as well lay it on just as thick as it normally is. This is the latest in my series of short videos about making model buildings from scratch or even adapting things that you've already bought. Just to prove that I'm down with the kids, I'm calling this one Rapping about rapping. In making model buildings, wrapping is a very important technique, whether it's photographic layers, as I use, or texture papers, which I also use a lot of. It's quite vital to achieve neatness and realism. You can get photo quality realism by using photo. I suppose that's just logical. I learned a lot about wrapping from building the excellent Scalescenes models, which are downloadable PDFs issued by the excellent John Wiffen, and I'd like to thank them in advance for all that I've learned in doing their kits. I've got no commercial connection to Scalescenes other than the number of them that I've purchased. Don't tell the wife. And there is a link at the end of this video, which hopefully you'll find useful. Here's a frame that I made from a photograph of the building, scale to size. This is 00 gauge or 4mm to the foot. And I've glued a grayscale copy to save that fabulously expensive printer ink onto 2mm mounting board, and I've used a very sharp Stanley knife to cut out the doors and windows. I have counted my fingers and they're all still there. Incidentally, 2mm card very quickly blunts blades, so make sure you've got a good supply of them. Now here's a piece of stone texture paper which I've cut roughly to size, and that's what I'm going to use to wrap this particular building frontage. So it's out with the yoo-hoo, and we'll make sure particularly that we get a good supply around the edges of the windows and doors, because you'll want that to stick quite firmly, and that just gets an even coat all round, particularly on the edges. You don't want them coming loose at any point during the process. Pay particular attention, as I say, to the parts around the doors and windows, because we're going to want the coverage there to wrap quite nicely. So that's going on to there, and make sure it's firmly stuck down. I've trimmed that to size, and the first thing I'm going to do is wrap the edges, because I do like to cover the edges so that there's none of that dreaded white card showing, which makes it difficult to maybe fill in afterwards. But we'll get some glue on those edges and on the paper itself to make sure that when that's wrapped round, it sticks firmly, and it's just a question of folding over as firmly as you can against the edge, making sure that sticks, and waiting for it to harden off a bit and dry. Well, that's something I always like to do, is get the edges of the card covered with something, because they're difficult to fill in afterwards, and when you start taking photographs of your buildings you realise, whoops, I missed that bit. When the glue's set, start to cut the windows and doors. I work from each corner to get a nice even cut. These flaps are going to be folded over like that and glued down. As you can see, this one is going to be a bit of a problem because of the narrowness of the doorway. So what we'll do there is just take a little bit off, so there's only a fraction to wrap. Now, a bit of glue on each of those triangulars. Doesn't do any harm to put a bit on the outside, particularly where you've got something like that door frame to wrap around. Finger through, wrap as firm as you can against the edge, and give the glue a second or two to bite. You can see there by that door edge, I'm just about getting in, just about wide enough, but we don't want that to spoil the shape of anything else we'll put in there afterwards. Just check that on the outside. These windows are not entirely square, but that's true of the building itself, so I'm not too worried about that. So now I've repeated that process for all the windows and doors, made sure they're all firmly settled down, and you can see on the reverse how the triangular flaps have been glued down. That side door's looking a bit messy there, so we'll need to tidy that up. Looking a lot better now, just making sure all the glue's taken and that everything's glued down. And that's now ready for the next process. Now in this case, I've put the glue on the area to be where the fan will be stuck down, because that's easier, and just fold those back inside, and getting glue all over your fingers, just pin them back. Not as easy to do for the camera as it is in real life, but those are, you can see the general idea of those pinned back. And on the other side you can see that arch is reasonably smooth. Certainly okay to get the just smooth it out with a finger or a pencil sometimes if that's not quite right. Smooth it all back, and there's the fan pinned back behind. Gives the idea of how that should happen. Okay, at this point let's think about windowsills while we're wrapping things. What I've done here is cut out a number of suitably coloured bits of paper which are matched to the widths of the window, slightly longer because all windowsills protrude past the edge, and the idea here is to glue the outer edge first and let it set quite firmly. I'm using the fine applicator tip bottle to make sure that only a small amount of glue goes on there and it doesn't show on the surfaces afterwards. The sill is placed so that the cutout is right at the bottom of the window, and you can see that those cutouts are left showing through like that. So all four are in place now, and the glue on the outer section has dried, so it's time for a spot more yoo-hoo on the white sections that are showing there, and they are then brought in, folded over, bit more wrapping, and they should firmly hold and it means you've got a smooth surface in here as there would be on the real building, and you just got that very slight relief. Most windowsills don't stick out very far on real buildings, so that stone's a pleasant contrast. It probably be weathered a little bit later as well, and that's the technique that I use for windowsills. You can also use it obviously for door lintels, same process in reverse, but we haven't quite worked out what we're doing with this shop window door arrangement yet, whether it'll be a shop, a pub, or whatever. Okay, that's enough about wrapping for now, although I haven't quite finished with the subject because it can be useful for some other techniques as well. That'll be the subject maybe of the next video. In the meantime, thanks for having a look. If you like my videos, please give it a like and subscribe to the channel, because I do try to put new stuff on maybe every couple of weeks. Thanks a lot and have a good day.